Can you put a 74 or 5 front axle with disc brakes? Is it a bolt boom thing? From a 73 to a,
I believe the springless should be all the same, so the axle should bolt right in. Change the hoses up front. If it's already got power brakes, and it's a matter of changing the master cylinder. And if you're still having a little bit of problem with the brakes, then you probably want to change the proportioning valve out to 1/4 disc drum.
okay. Don't put a aftermarket proportioning valve.
You can. So that one gives you the adjustability. The ones that are more stock looking, I mean, those have built-in safety feature where if you lose brakes on one end or the other, it'll shut that side off and keep your other half of your brakes operation.
How about Hydro Boost installation?
I'm a fan of it.
Yeah,
I mean, it'll put you through the windshield.
stop.
So
Because you got a big truck there.
we're going to eventually come out with a Hydro Boost conversion for the full size,
You
69
are?
to 75 heads. I need to do it to my travel ball. That's the first one I'll do it to. Because when I get up in when I'm up above 8,000 feet elevation, my booster gets hard. And it can make your heart skip a beat when you're hitting the brakes and the pedal hard, and it takes like 1 to 2 seconds before you get enough vacuum in to draw that down. Yeah. So with Hydro Boost, you wouldn't have to really, it's good, as long as the pumps could turn it, you got boost.
I think this pinching or squeezing power is a lot greater too.
Much greater. Yeah, typical booster is under 2,000 psi. Typical Hydro Boost is over 2,000 psi. A lot more pressure being applied.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Suspension question. I'm looking at the 2-inch lift. Top two I've seen is the rough country and Skyjacker. Is there a preference? I know Skyjacker is more expensive, but for safety aspect, it's a better unit. Recommendation or preference. And also, you need to do a shim. You do a push lift, sandwich lift.
Well, even stock lift, we recommend those shims, just because again they came from the factory with 0 degrees caster. So you've got multiple issues going on there with that. Like I say, so you could be stock and need the shim, but normally aftermarket when we put a lift on, yeah, we'll throw a 2 to 4 degree shim. That also depends on whether you're adding shackles to it, extended shackles. As for difference between the Skyjacker and the rough country, I guess that's, you got an overseas product versus a USA made product. Typically the quality is better on the Skyjackers. They are known, especially the 4-inch springs, for sagging a little bit in the rear. So if you carry a lot of weight or you tow a lot, the Skyjackers, like especially 4-inch, are known to soften up a little bit after a couple of years. It could be similar in that. Like I said, they're to me on the lightest scale of being built. So if you are doing some towing a little bit, I will recommend the rough countries just because they're a little bit heavier spring pack, but they're not like their 4-inch packs, which are real thick, blunt cut. Customers call them on a 4-inch lift. I kind of ask them what kind of ride quality you want. If they're looking for ride quality, they do not want 4-inch rough country. Sometimes we'll talk them down to 2-inch with a shackle to get them as close to 4-inch as possible and keep the ride quality in check.
Preference on shock on the rough country. I mean, it's like a 90% on-road deal.
Oh, I'm sorry?
What kind of shock do you prefer if you're doing mainly road driving?
We prefer Bilsteins. They're an expensive shock. They're around $90 a piece. The rough country shocks aren't bad, but they're not. Are they going to give you the best ride quality? No, the Bilsteins will give you probably the best all-around performance. So again, it's kind of like your personal preference. Some guys don't mind a few little stiff suspension or rough, and other guys are, no, I want it as nice as possible. So again, it's almost kind of an opinion question, opinion and pocketbook. How much would you like to throw at it, and then, no pun intended, steer you in the right direction.
That's when safety is my biggest concern.
Yeah.
If I'm going to pay twice as much for something that when I need to swerve, I'll swerve quickly.
Well, the stiffer the spring, the easier on the rollovers it's going to be. But that's kind of hard to say. I mean, all the situations are so different.
Got a door question for you. On mine, my Terra came out with deluxe interior, and had the painted door panels, and I went in a couple years ago and put that, I call it bubble insulation, the aluminum bubble between the door, resealed the weather plastic in there, put that bubble wrap insulation between the metal and the door, and then the padded. And when I shut my doors, I mean, it sounds just, you get a thump. Okay. A Y Scout, it was a standard, so it didn't have anything. So I put the insulation behind the metal panel and then put the padded door panels in it. And hers has still got a real, I guess you call it a tinny sound when you shut the doors. Now, it does need to have the felts replaced. But is there anything, is that just a quirk between one and another?
What year
or
are the Scouts?
hers is a 74, mine's a 78.
Usually the earlier years had a little bit thicker metal in them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit opposite because the 78 would have a little bit thinner metal. I would think it'd be the other way out of the noise.
Yeah, but just, slam my door, it's just, it's got a thump. And then hers has just got a real, like a high
Do you have like
pitch.
heavy undercoating inside your door at all or anything? Or was
Not
it ever
really.
T-barred in or anything like that?
Not that I've noticed, but hers is, when you slam her door, it's just got that ting echo to it, and mine's just a thud. And I thought that this would have fixed, 90% of it, putting the door panels in it and putting the padded door panels and then the insulation behind. But it's still got, and it does need the felts replaced. I'm going to replace the windows this winter because it's got the painted steel. I've got the stainless steel with the tinted windows to put in it, and I'm going to replace the felts then. But I wouldn't have thought that the felts would make that much.
It could be something as simple as where the window tracks are down below the door, the little fuzzy mohair or whatever you want to call it that's down in that, lets the windows flop around. And they get a lot of noise out of those, but I don't know if that's the tinny sound or more of a rattle. When you shut it, it sounds like you shut it 3 times because stuff's in there slapping around.
Yeah, no, it's got like hers got like a ting,
There's a metal brace that runs across the inside of the door. It's possible it's a little bit too close or loose, and it's just touching enough to make that noise.
Okay.
I've seen the reinforcement on the skins actually get loose over time. You might check that. They'll make that tinny sound when you shut it.
Okay.
Get in there a little. I've done it with spray foam insulation. They'll attach both together and then help prevent that. Same thing with the roof on your Scout too, the steel roof. If you see it, it's pointing in and flexing. You're going down the road, you can hear it pointing in a little bit. It means it's loosened up from the bows underneath, and we'll spray foam insulation in there to bond the two together. And then it's stiffen that back up.
So going back to things that you would do or typically do, what about window regulators? I see most shops offer those, new, and you take the window regulator out. It's rusty. It's got the coiled spring inside. I mean, if you were putting your doors back together, those windows sometimes are pretty hard to crank up.
I get new ones. It's something that's in your hand anyway.
And how many thousands of times has that window been up and down in the
I know,
last
that's-
40 years? That's a relatively cheap item to replace. It's a creature comfort. Nothing like cranking on a rusty piece of crap window regulator.
They're pretty readily available.
We have brand
Well, you
new
gotta
ones
reach over and grab
available.
one.
Scout. Right, it's got 2. Yeah, definitely that's it. Jeff, you got a question?
As I do body work or any metal work underneath, I don't have time. I do a little bit at a time, and I'm not going to paint it myself. Do I just acid prime everything, and that's good enough before I send it out, or should I be doing more? I know there's the high build primers and stuff. But most of that really should be shot out of the gun. I know Eastwood has a product where it's got the 2 mixed down a can. Is that any good?
Where you sending it to, me?
I don't know.
It really depends on the paint shop you're sending it to, because they're going to want to use the products that they like.
Yeah.
If you're sending it to Joe Blow's Body Shop, I just call them and ask. Say, what do you want me to do with this? I plan on sending you my truck to have it painted. How much do you want me to go? How far do you want me to go? And what products?
Is at least the acid-based etching primer good enough to keep it at least keep it from rusting? If they're going to do more, that's fine, but that will stop
That'll
surface
stop
rusting.
it initially.
Yeah, get with the shop that you're taking it to,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, if it's not there and you did it, they don't know what it is there,
They
and
don't guarantee it.
they won't touch it.
Okay.
If it's not, if you primed it, I don't want it. You take it back to, you take it back to bare metal, and then I'll do something with it, but I won't touch it the way it is.
Anything you do is gonna save you money from them to do it unless they're gonna redo it. That's gonna cost you money.
I thought epoxy primer sealed and, the acid primer doesn't. In other words, if you're gonna leave it a while.
If you're gonna leave it long-term where it's exposed to moisture, the acid primer will not seal. It doesn't have any binders in it to hold moisture out. It's an initial get-go to just get a coating on it, to get a fundamental coating. But if you're gonna leave it set outside or in a barn with a dirt floor, or who knows, yeah, you need to get some epoxy on it.
What's the max on the epoxy before you want to top coat?
I'm sorry.
What's the max you should leave? Because I'm guilty of this. I've had mine for a couple of years now. I haven't painted it yet. So is it too late for me? I use a good
Before,
epoxy.
you mean, is your epoxy still good? Is that what you're asking before it needs to
No,
be
I'm
topped?
saying, yeah. What's my statute of limitations? I guess.
Depends on the exposure to the elements that it's had. If
Yeah.
it's been in a shop and it's not been sitting out in the rain and,
No, it's been garage.
yeah, you're okay.
Pretty good shape.
But again, I'd check with the body shop that you're gonna take it to, or if you're gonna paint it yourself, research the products you're using.
I have a
because they
couple
do-
decisions to make.
Yeah, it makes a difference, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I would never bring it up here from these guys' decisions. Or you guys. Thank you.
Down your quarters, front in front of the wheel, that's where it always rusts. Were there originally any drain holes in there? And when you put something back together, did you put drain holes in for what?
There were drain holes at the bottom of that inner quarter gusset from the factory that had plugs in them. Usually get undercoated over and nobody knows they're there, packed full of mud. But there were drain holes from the factory. Not in the right place, they're a little too high, so water and crud sets in the bottom of them. There should be some drain holes at the proper level put in so that you can get that back out of there. But realistically, you seal that quarter panel up, you do a good job sealing that up, you're not gonna get crap back in there anyway. Seal it up, undercoat it real good.
Condensation or anything?
The condensation, you can never stop.
Okay.
But the ability for it to attack the metal, you can prevent by sealing it up inside there really good. Doing the due diligence to make sure that's sealed up tight. That's your first and foremost line of defense against the rust and protecting that metal.
When you're repairing or replacing like sheet metal, I seen a guy in a body shop do a lot of brazing. I mean, what do you think of that instead of actually welding? Is that just a technique, or?
I think it would be technique or
Old
the
school.
tools available. Definitely on older repairs, I see a lot of brazing. I think that nowadays, we MIG weld all our stuff together. I think that's the more common way to do it these days. But sometimes you got these old school guys, man. They just like to work with their brass on there. Don't want any body fillers if they can help it.
Because I got a gas welder, and I was thinking of maybe trying that.
It's got a lot of work, I think.
You'll have more warpage issues.
Yeah.
A lot more heat in your panel. You're gonna have
Especially
problems
flat stuff,
with-
right?
You're gonna have problems with warping.
You just repetitive tacks
Yeah.
on little patch panels and stuff.
That's your best.
Grind flush and then just get a skin with Bondex. How about picking your body line? Because I got on my trail rig, I guess I'll call it. Got the pocket in the front, right behind the B pillar, where all the dirt gathered and had a cactus growing in it. And I had the rod across the arch. And I bought a panel here last year that was like half back panel. Now, you guys go right to the joint on the body line, or is it smarter to go off the body line so you can bring it back in? What's the best approach? Because I want to keep the body line from quarter to quarter across the door and line.
What are you working on?
It's got two, I'm sorry.
The rear quarter?
Yeah,
I'm replacing the quarter.
the whole quarter? Okay.
You're going to end up a whole lot less work, right?
Yeah,
Time you save, where you can just go through and drill spot welds out, and even if you can't weld, you can drill spot welds out, prep it, and carry it someplace and have them welded. The time that you'll save in paying somebody to try to make that body line straight, you'll be money ahead.
yeah, all right.
Not to mention while it's skinned off, you got so much more opportunity to seal that inner quarter up and do your
Yep.
rust prevention like you should.
Yeah, I got some stuff, got issues in there as well, so you're right.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
we always have the quarters off. It's the best time to treat all the bare surfaces in there. We'll prime them, we'll undercoat them on the inside, and just do all the best we can. to keep
Okay,
from
what
the-
came first, the quarter or the end cap?
What's that?
When I go back on that quarter and that end cap, you guys made the quarter and the end cap together, then put it in?
Yes.
Okay, that was a question.
A lot of guys will want to reuse their end cap, which is fine. You have to spend the time in cleaning it up, repairing it and stuff.
Yeah.
For us as a shop, it's money ahead for us just to toss the whole section, grab brand new end cap, a brand new quarter, get our pinch welder, pinch it on there, it's ready,
Yeah, 'cause
coat
I
it,
got-
it's ready to
I
install.
got the driver's side rear cap pulling away, the issue I had, so my quick fix was a deep hood latch, just to keep it pulled forward, but, yeah, I was just wondering, appreciate it.
People don't want to hear it in the grand scheme of things. When you can buy a quarter panel, an end cap, and that little arch filler piece, all three pieces for $500, that's cheap. In the grand scheme of the automotive world, that's cheap.
Yeah,
People were like, it's $500.
You got a
for quarter
96
panel."
degree
Yeah, it
garage,
is.
it's
Yeah.
real
Call and
cheap.
check one for Chevelle or for whatever, $500 isn't bad, and it's your money ahead to do it.
And when you're paying them or a shop or whatever to do it, the clock is running.
Yep.
Yep,
Whether they're welding, drilling, grinding, the clock is running.
That's why we normally don't save end caps. It's money ahead just by get the new part, pinch weld it on. Otherwise, you're trying to clean up, you're taking all the time you're gonna spend cleaning up that old part, put it back on.
yeah, and plus trying to get
There's still an
everything
old
lined back
part.
up against when we don't have it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
That's true for any sheet metal piece that they make. It's out there and they make it.
Correct.
Have you had any problems with, when you make something and then you hammer and dolly it, the cracking? You know, is it a harder weld, say, to make, to the point you have to worry about it?
You mean cracking the weld itself?
You know,
Cold weld, just incorrect voltage on your welder when you were welding it. Because it makes 100% penetration. If it's welded right, you're not gonna crack that weld.
It'll actually crack beside the weld.
Yeah.
If that's your bead of weld, it's gonna crack here or here.
well, if you butt weld and you're, like if you're piecing something, you butt weld and it's, you know, you have the thickness of the, it's not overlapping. So it's pretty tough to get it hot, enough to, I just, stitch it or whatever you call it. Is that, I don't know, I'm not a professional welder, but I always wondering if it was strong enough. So I usually do it on the back and then the front, grind it and all that.
Have you had trouble with cracking?
I don't know, I'll let you know.
It's like, I've never seen, I've never had trouble with the weld crack.
I was wondering if maybe the spool was a special kind of wire or something. Just standard.
Just stay in the wire, yeah.
Ron Covell, whatever his name is. You know him, he's on the West Coast. He does metal fabrication for just about anything. And he prefers TIG instead of MIG, and he mentioned that. And I'm wondering, most guys, they have a MIG welder. TIG's an entirely different machine. Skill level's a lot tougher to take something.
Yeah. Usually it's a more high quality weld in a sense. But, yeah, it would definitely take a long time to TIG, but that's, if you're looking for high end, race cars, there's a reason why they TIG weld it and stuff
Oh,
as
okay.
opposed to MIG. It's a stronger weld overall. Usually a little bit more pure, you have less impurities in there.
Okay, now if you're putting a panel on and you're butt welding it, do you use those little spacers to give it like a 1/16 of a gap when you weld it? Or you try to
I
make
think
it?
if it was sheet metal, I wouldn't leave much of a gap with sheet metal because you're gonna have a hard time with it burning each time.
Yeah.
So almost an overlap is kind of more ideal for the sheet metal there, as opposed to a button.
You'll say butt weld is usually the last resort. I'm always trying to overlap. It's
Do
your
you?
strength. Yeah, absolutely. It
And
should be a small overlap.
You're not worried about, how it
Like one being on top of the other.
tends to rust after a while,
Yeah. Rather have an overlapping metal.
Yeah.
That's when you prime it, try to get under coating and just seal it up.
Seal
If
it.
it's sealed from the outside elements. it
Don't
should-
go nuts trying to butt weld everything.
No.
We try to butt weld everything. I guess I'll be the odd man out. We try to, well, where we can, where it's feasible.
What do
If
you
we're gonna
use?
patch a floor or a piece of a tunnel or something like that, we generally try to put the welds. And I've got those little clamps that hold them apart like you're talking about, but I rarely use them.
And what do you use to weld it?
The MIG welder, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I just hold it in place. I've got some big, the little arrow-shaped magnets that you see.
Yeah.
They've got a harbor freight or whatever.
Yeah.
Just stick it on there, get it all twisted, nailed right, and weld it, and then pull and push and get it lined up so that it's right all the way around, and just stitch it, tack it all the way around until it's welded in and grind it smooth. That way, if you're looking at the top or the bottom, either one, you don't have that overlap.
Okay.
So,
I'm trying to piece a hood on an early Scout. And the replacement hood had pinholes all across the front. The original hood flew up and got all bent up, but that front section's pristine. So, you know, I pieced it, and then I used a MIG. And I kind of, rather than burn through, instead of trying to hit right at, I kind of did this thing on the back,
Right.
just to locate it, and then any place where there was still a line that I could see in the front, I filled in from the front, I ground it down. I guess it ends up being 18 gauge, if the original is 18 gauge, right? So if you weld it, you grind it, you still have 18 gauge. Where you weld, then it's probably a stronger metal than the original. I guess I'm just worried about it cracking, slamming the wood and all that stuff. I'm not gonna, it came out pretty good. I don't think I'm gonna have to use too much.
Then did you overlap or butt it?
I butted it.
what vehicle is it?
A 70 Scout. Oh, that's another thing. What, those bump stops, when you slam the hood, after a while, they get like bent down a little bit, and then it starts hitting the metal to metal and chipping the paint. What's a good solution on that?
Well, joint reinforcement on that header band. Keep it from bending in, folding in the header.
Okay. How about, another problem he had was when it slammed the hood, you could always lift it up a little bit, and it, going down the highway, it started to work, and the pin actually unthreaded from the top, and the hood opened. It's probably whoever had it before didn't tighten it enough. I don't know. It's
Could be a jam nut on it, so once you make your adjustment, lock down your jam nut, that thing should go.
on the inside. Yeah.
On that part that sticks down,
Yeah.
okay, there's usually a jam nut where the threads to adjust for height.
Right.
There should be a jam nut on it, so once you make your adjustment, you should lock it down with a jam nut.
Maybe I'll use like a nylon lock nut or something. Might work.
It needs to be a real thin type of nut, normally.
You're talking about the bottom nut, not the one in the hood itself?
Not the one with it itself, correct.
Okay.
You'll thread into that, and then you'll have a nut that's actually on the part that's sticking down.
Right.
So once you make your adjustment, then you lock that, you tighten that up to lock it in so it doesn't back out.
And the reason it was, moving a little bit was those bump stops were knocked down a little bit and gave it some play. Is that what you think would happen?
Could be. I mean, a simple adjustment on those could help keep the hood back up again.
When you close it, it should be solid. It should.
Yeah, it shouldn't have much of any play in it. Yeah, she was first, and then we'll go to you next.
This is about the paint job. Most modern cars have, 39 coats of clear coat and all that stuff. What did, being a purist, sorry, what did Harvester do with their, paint, like, to get our truck back to the way it was, and not this bright, shiny flames and all this stuff?
You mean how much paint was on it from the factory?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was it just like a one coat, and then, was there a clear coat?
No.
Or, I wouldn't think so,
No.
but do you recommend it?
Do you want it to be just like it was from the factory? It depends on how purist you want to go with it. If you want it to be just like it was from the factory, then I kind of want it to be just like it was from the factory. If you're wanting it to not, basically your paint job is going to last you longer. It's going to give longevity to your paint. It's better quality paint. It's not going to oxidize out. That would for a single stage paint.
Okay. Well, what I'm thinking of is, they were more of a flat, they weren't really shiny, and if you give it a clear coat, it's gonna be sort of shiny.
You can actually get a satin clear, but that's not what you're after.
Okay?
It's not going to be the look that you're after. Even the paint jobs when they were new were supposed to be shiny. They just weren't.
Yeah. That's
The objective was for
To today's standards.
Yeah,
It was then, but
Yeah.
to today's standards, it's not.
correct. So I mean, really, if you're trying to keep it purist style, just like it was from the factory, you're going to need to get with a. If you take that to a body shop and say, "Here, put this color paint on it," it's going to come out shiny because that's the way they're going to paint it. You need to get with a restoration shop that will adjust the orange peel and so forth on that paint and make it look like it's supposed to be painted that way, like it was from the factory, if that's what you care about. You just need to be specific on that when you do finally deal with whoever paints your vehicle.
What's most expensive that we're gonna run into, so sort of wanna keep that down without having to repaint it.
Right.
How many years? Okay.
Can you, or have you ever mixed hardener with a single stage enamel?
It should have hardener in it, yeah.
No, I mean, do that instead of clear coat.
Yeah.
How's the shininess come out? Would that
It depends. You can adjust the shininess on your technique of painting.
any
really.
kind?
Right. On any kind of paint.
That clear usually makes it look deeper, I think,
Correct. Oh yeah, you're going to get a much deeper gloss.
which I don't think she wants, right?
Right. It sounds like to me you're more interested in keeping it like it was original.
It's a farm shop, I want it to be a
Right.
farm shop.
But you got to keep in mind, a faded paint job is a 30-year-old paint job. You know what I mean? Even when they were new, they were fairly shiny. The International wasn't horrible with their paint for the era. You
Yeah,
know
what
what
we
I
can
mean?
find underneath, it seems to be, like you said, a little shiny.
Little shiny.
Surprise.
It was when it was new.
Yeah.
It just didn't stay new very long.
Yeah.
That was the deal.
Okay.
Nobody kept track of the paint.
So it's
very
really
good.
their technique, how they
was.
put that on.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody, wet sands and with these modern paints, and they didn't back then.
Correct.
Correct, they shot it and that was it.
Yeah, you shot it out of the gun, let it dry, and it was gone. That's exactly what you got. Usually back then, your orange peel was pretty heavy, depended upon the metallic in it. I've seen, especially on International, the metallic that come out of the metallic paints back then was mottled up, also bad from the factory. So if you want one that, I know this sounds crappy what I'm getting ready to say, but if you want a paint job that looks vintage, it's not going to be a very good paint job.
Okay.
Because the factory paint jobs, I mean, they were okay, but to today's standards, they're not a very good paint job.
There's a pickup that actually I think John just picked up that has a run in the top.
Oh, yeah.
And in the top was paperwork at the factory saying fix the run. They never fixed the run. The run is still there. So it's, again, you're going to keep it because it's left the factory that way. So there's a run. And so if you want that kind
Hard
of
in that factory runs.
Yeah. Runs down the firewalls like crazy. I can't tell you how many runs the inside of hoods, firewalls are just dripping. Where, that's.
They didn't
that's what
have
they did.
robots.
You got a question back here?
Going back to the welding, if you get like an overlapping joint, what do you think of that spray zinc product? Ever use that?
Weld-through primer?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
I've used it.
What do you think? Worth it or not?
I don't know, it has me 10 years on some of these projects I've done, and see how they're holding up. It's kind of hard to tell, but it can definitely make the weld process a little bit more difficult having that coating in there and flashing on you while you're welding. I mean, sometimes when I'm doing stuff like that, I've got a respirator with the air vent pickup behind my back while I'm doing some of that weld to keep those chemicals out of the water.
If you think you're getting good at welding a little bit, spray some of that stuff on there and try it, and you won't think you're good at it.
You're not.
Because it really, really, really
Nice
does
better.
not work like they say it works.
Yeah.
I like to use it when we do the rockers and floors and braces and stuff. I put it on top of the braces and under the floors and stuff, but it does make welding a challenge. To try to make it, I don't want to grind this, I'll make nice welds. You end up with splatter everywhere. makes it more difficult.
So probably for a novice, weld it as good as you can and seam seal it.
There you go.
That's your gamble.
You could go either way with it, you know.
On your Scout 2 factory AC, is there anything y'all do to make them more efficient, or do you just have a tendency to just go to like the newer vintage air system?
I'll tell you, I've gone all sorts of ways on them. So my Scout 2 has a factory system that was completely rebuilt. Still has the York compressor, factory condenser, and all that. Replace all the hoses and then put the 134 in it. It's not all that great. I mean, that thing's only, on a good day, maybe blows high 40s. The York compressors use a lot of power. They're not very efficient. The modern systems today, I mean, yeah, they're a lot better for heat exchanging and stuff. Condensers are much better these days. So it really depends on what you're doing, a restoration or a modernization. So if you're modernizing, it is better to go with all new if you can, instead of trying to restore. I mean, I had just about as much restoring an original system as I could just bought a brand new one that would have had a quieter blower motor, that would have been run colder. Now, like my travel all is kind of a half and half. All the under dash systems, all original, and then new hoses, new condenser, new modern sanding compressor. I think blows 32 degrees out of it. So it's, you know.
Probably got almost as much money in that as you would too. By the time you do hoses and dryer and everything.
It adds up, yeah. Either way, it's going to cost you about the same. So to me, it's like, unless you're doing a perfect restoration, I mean, I'd go with modernization so you get better comfort out of it.
And modern, you're saying like 508 sanding compressor,
Yeah.
sort of, but not vintage air. See, the thing is the Scout 2, it's got that separate AC and the heaters up underneath, but that vintage air, it's all in one thing, so I can't
So
help but
the
think
thing with the Scout, and I've done it with some of those vintage airs in them, there's not a whole lot of room underneath that dash like you might think. So you go to stick that combination system underneath there and you're trying to run all those vent hoses in through the dash and stuff, you run out of room really fast underneath there.
Would you put another electric fan on the condenser or anything like that to help? Or is that just kind of...
If you maybe sat in traffic a lot and stuff, or, you know, sometimes a lot like when we're doing an LS conversion, for instance, we're going to electric fan. We learned recently,